Hi, I'm Joan Newcomb, and today's morning musings are your problems self-generated? I'm doing a series of daily morning musings, and I'm using posts from my blog, Adventures in Density and Effort, as inspiration. Now, I wrote these a while ago, and the world has completely transformed since then. So if I encounter anything that seems out of date, I will interrupt myself and give you the most recent information. At the end, I will summarize the topic based on what's going on in the world today. Also, I have some special offers, so stay tuned to the very end to see what they are. Are your problems self-generated? I was listening to Eckhart Tolle, and he asked the question, are your problems self-generated or generated by the world? Well, it certainly feels like the world is generating my problems, you might say. I would never do this to myself. It's so easy to point the finger at anything outside yourself, at the government, your spouse, your kids, your boss. They're all doing this to me. If they would only be different, I could be happy. If I were generating my problems, all of this would be my fault, you protest. Why would I give my dog cancer? Why would I create my boss to be an asshole? Well, blaming yourself instead of blaming others just generates more problems, doesn't it? Problems are self-generated because they're seen as problems. When you view the world as problematic, then it is. We make life harder for ourselves that way. I've been spending most of October with my 84-year-old mother. When I first got here, I had jet lag and I was just going with the flow, not resisting it or resisting anything. And after a while, I realized that I wasn't paying attention to how my mother was doing. My whole reason for being here was to help improve her quality of life, to get some things done that need doing, and hopefully get her some help. It really wasn't that I was not paying attention. I just wasn't evaluating, read judging, her behavior. It was kind of nice. But after I'd been there for a while, I started noticing her memory lapses and adding story to them. Is this early Alzheimer's? What if these were pre-stroke symptoms? These are kind of thoughts that don't really help me help her. They just provoke me to spring into action mode and try to force her to do things according to my not accurate agenda. She had a physical just before I came with a doctor who's been seeing her for the last 10 years. If a medical professional examining her didn't detect anything either, then I, with my absolute zero medical knowledge, don't need to diagnose her as well. I can respond instead of react. One response is to just be in the moment with her, helping her with whatever I can. Another is to encourage her to connect with an elder care service, which can assist her after I go back home. She's been wanting a house cleaner for several years now and could use someone to drive her places outside of her 5-mile radius from home. Responding opens up possibilities. Reacting batters against what I think is happening, which isn't. There are many things I can't do anything about. It's not useful for me to focus on them. It takes energy from the things I can change. I can't change my mother. I can't reverse the aging process. Okay, I think she needs to exercise and stop eating ice cream after dinner, but I can't make her do those things. I can change my perspective. I can change the lens through which I view things. I can step back and look at the bigger picture. If I'm overly emotional, I can wait until I respond. You can wait 24 hours before taking action on pretty much anything. This week, if you choose, notice your problems. What would they be like if they weren't problems? Is it true that there even are problems? What's another way to look at them? Ask yourself, if this wasn't a problem, how would I handle it? Try this whenever things come up over the next 7 days and see what happens. And leave me a note below if you do. I love reading your comments. So I wrote this in October of 2010, and my mother had actually had a physical earlier than that because I went out the next April, which is when she was actually having her annual physical. And her annual physical was with this doctor who saw her for like 15 minutes. It's a little bit like going to Jiffy Lube for an oil change. And this time in the next April, so the visit after this one, I manufactured going with her, like, oh, I can take notes for you. And I went there, and it took a huge amount of effort just to get this doctor to give my nearly 85-year-old mother a referral to a neurologist. And then I convinced my mother to go by saying, we need to make sure that you're not going to have a stroke. So I played on that fear. And she got diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment, which within a year became Alzheimer's. So I look back at this now and I actually can see a lot of changes were happening in her that actually had started like 10 years before. But this woman was so incredibly organized and she took incredible notes and she had all these incredible systems that it masked all the things that were going on. What did happen in that October though, before I left, was I did get a companion care to come to the house once a week. And my mother was so mad at me. I told her that if she wanted to remain independent, she would have to eventually accept help. So this would be good practice. And so I got her a companion carer, and she was so mad at me for having this woman come that she didn't talk to me for 3 months. But then the next April, when I went out to visit, I discovered that she had stopped driving anywhere, leaving all her errands till when this woman came to take her to the bank and the post office and the grocery store. So she had macular degeneration that affected her vision in one eye as well. So she had limited her radius to like 5 miles, and obviously she was accepting the help. So I don't know how useful that analogy is with my mother, but let's bring this back to, are your problems self-generated? I think my mother's problems were self-generated. If there's a problem in your life, one way that I look at it is that within you, you have the resources to resolve it. And by which I mean that the part of you that sees yourself as having a problem is that body personality part that feels limited, and the part that has the solution is the part of you that's infinite consciousness. And reflecting on my mom, is she had an illness that was contracting her world. It is something that we still don't have a cure for, and her higher self, her consciousness, created me to come out at these different times to help, and also created me just a few months after she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. I came back out that next summer to try to sort things out, and she fell and broke her pelvis, and then in the hospital they discovered she had lung cancer. So I was there at the time and managed to hunker down and ended up midwifing her back to spirit. I had concluded that she had such wonderful systems and doctors and everything else that it was just better to not move her to Seattle, 3,000 miles away, but to stay and hunker down in the systems that she'd created and to allow her to pass away at home. And bringing this back is, I created that as consciousness, she created it as consciousness. And when you can see that even the most difficult and challenging circumstances, when you see yourself creating it as consciousness, it does make it easier to go through, even if it was extremely painful. So if you like these videos, please share them with your family and friends. Also, please click the like button and subscribe, and that way you're telling YouTube to distribute this far and wide and get it out to people who really need this information. If you want a free sample of a consciousness technique of mine, click on the link below to the Skybox technique. It'll give you an expanded perspective of your life. And if you want some manifestation techniques, below is my Manifesting Money and Miracles. It's a self-study course where you can go at your own pace and learn how to embody different frequencies to completely transform your life. And if you want to know more, my website is joan-newcomb.com. There you can find out about my personal sessions where I take a look at you as consciousness and what's going on in your life today, and I can answer any questions that you might have, and it's all recorded just for you. And if you want to learn how to do this for yourself, Manifesting Money and Miracles is a great preparation for my coaching special, where I work with you one-on-one and I give you specifically chosen consciousness techniques so that you can transform your life. So you can find out more at my website. Go to my website, joan-newcomb.com, and I'll see you tomorrow in another Morning Musings.